Have you ever noticed that your breathing changes when your life changes? When you are stressed, your breathing becomes shallow. When you're anxious, your chest feels tight. When you're overwhelmed, you find yourself sighing without even realizing it. And when you're grieving, sometimes it feels as though you simply cannot take a full breath. In traditional Chinese medicine, this matters a lot because breathing is not viewed as something mechanical alone. It is rhythm, exchange, connection, protection. And today we are exploring the organ system most connected with all of these things. Healing's like tending a garden, and in every video, we water the roots. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Amy, and welcome back to our channel. Over the past few episodes, we have explored the kidneys, the liver, the spleen, and the heart, each one playing a unique role in the body's ecosystem. Today, we arrive at the atmosphere, the lungs. If the kidneys are the deep blue ocean, the liver is the flowing river, the spleen is the nourishing earth, and the heart is the sun, then the lungs are the atmosphere, the invisible layer surrounding the entire ecosystem. In traditional Chinese medicine, the lungs are far more than just breathing alone. They help govern the movement of qi throughout the body. They regulate the distribution of fluids. For this reason, the lungs are described as our body's canopy, the uppermost layer that protects, regulates, and distributes. Before we continue, let us put the lung system within the wider framework of TCM. For the lungs, the associated tissue is the skin. Their element is metal. Their external manifestation is body hair. They open into the nose. Their season is autumn. Their associated emotion is grief. And their associated flavor is pungent or acrid. The lungs govern exchange, protection, boundaries, and the relationship with the world beyond ourselves. Now let's talk about the first breath of life. The very first thing that a newborn baby does after entering the world is breathe. Before birth, oxygen is received through the mother. But after birth, everything changes. The lungs begins their own conversation with the outside world. From that moment onwards, every breath becomes an exchange, receiving and releasing, taking in what we need while letting go of things we no longer do. One thing I've noticed in modern life is that many of us have forgotten how to breathe. We spend most of our days indoors, surrounded by artificial air, moving very little, living under constant stress. Gradually, our breathing changes. It becomes smaller, shallower. The shoulders remain tense, and many people spend years breathing this way without knowing it until relaxed breathing feels unfamiliar. The body slowly settles into a quiet state of contraction. Perhaps this is why the emotion associated with the lungs makes profound sense. Grief. Because grief changes the way we breathe. The chest tightens, the breath shortens. The body quietly contracts inward. But grief isn't always dramatic and isn't always crying. Sometimes it looks like disappointment for many years. Sometimes it looks like loneliness or emotional suppression or holding far more than anyone realizes. Over time, those experiences may start changing the rhythm of the body itself. This also helps us understand how the lungs and kidneys work so closely together. The lungs receive the breath. The kidneys help anchor it. Think about how breathing changes during moments of intense anxiety. It often becomes rapid, shallow, difficult to settle. One system receives the qi, the other helps root it. And when this relationship becomes less harmonious, a practitioner may consider it alongside the symptoms of chronic breathlessness, fatigue, or the feeling that it's hard to take a satisfying breath. Now, if the lungs are constantly exchanging with the outside world, then where does that exchange begin? The nose. In TCM, we say that the lungs open into the nose. When the lung system is functioning harmoniously, breathing often feels open and effortless, comfortable. But when the lung system becomes disrupted, people may notice nasal congestion, itchy nose, runny nose, frequent sighing, chest tightness. Of course, these symptoms may have different causes. They also gives us clues on the state of the lung system. So we also mentioned that it's closely related to the pores and our skin. And I think the best way to describe it is literally like the earth and its atmosphere. The lungs continually interact with the body's most outer boundary. They help regulate sweating, distribute body fluids to the surface, and support what traditional Chinese medicine calls Wei Qi, our protective qi, which you can also think of it as our body's first line of defense. It helps us respond to the changes in the external environment, such as cold, wind, dryness, so any other environmental influences. So a lot of the time when we see someone with dry skin, abnormal sweating, recurrent sensitivity, allergy, or a tendency to become unwell easily, these don't automatically say that the lungs are the problem. They are simply clues. And in TCM, we never interpret one clue in isolation. We always look at the whole landscape. Moving on, the lungs belongs to the element metal, and their season is autumn. And I think nature explains this relationship far better than any textbook can. Autumn is the season of release. The leaves begin falling, the air becomes cooler, quieter. Nature slowly lets go of what it no longer needs, and the lung system reflects that beautifully. Every inhale followed by an exhale. Every exchange depends on both receiving and releasing. Even the flavor associated with the lungs reflects this idea. Their pungent or acrid has traditionally been used to encourage gentle movement and dispersion. Think of your ingredients such as ginger, garlic, spring onions, and mint. But as always, balance matters. Too much of pungency over time, especially in someone who lacks moisture, can cause the body to become dry. So once again, moderation is key. What happens when the balance is disrupted? Some patients walk into a clinic saying, I feel most fatigued, I keep getting sick, my skin is so sensitive, I always feel congested. But those symptoms don't necessarily come from the same landscape. So one common pattern is lung qi deficiency. Imagine an atmosphere that has become thin. Its protective boundary is no longer as strong as it was. People with this pattern become breathless after mild activity. Their voice may sound softer. They sweat easily, and they may find themselves becoming unwell more frequently. Overall, they say that they feel less resilient than they used to be. Another common pattern is lung yin deficiency. And now this is a very different landscape. Instead of becoming weakly protected, the atmosphere has become dry. People with this pattern may notice dry coughs, a dry throat, dry skin, thirst, or a cough that becomes more noticeable at night. Some also experience lingering sensation of internal heat. In TCM, this pattern may be considered in people who live in dry environments, those who use the voice extensively, smoking, sleeping late, and not allowing the body adequate amount of rest. The third pattern would be the phlegm affecting the lungs. The atmosphere becomes dense. People may notice chronic mucus, chest congestion, a productive cough, or a heavy sensation in the chest. This is where the relationship between the spleen and the lung become especially important. The spleen transforms the fluids, the lungs distributes them. When transformation slows, then fluids begin accumulating. And over time, that accumulation may become phlegm. The atmosphere gradually becomes heavier, much like a thick morning fog. And that is why treating the lungs alone is often not enough. Sometimes we also need to support the spleen, because within the 5-organ system, every organ is continually affecting the others. So knowing this, how can we support the lung system? Well, good news. Again, it responds remarkably well to simple but consistent habits. So, unsurprisingly, opening your window, exchanging the air with the outside world, taking a slow walk outdoors, relaxing the shoulders, pausing long enough to notice your breathing. So, a quick test. Right now, take a deep breath. The jaw shoulders move up and down like this. Has it quietly become shallow? Has it mainly settled in the upper chest? Were you unable to allow your exhale to become a little slower without forcing yourself to take a very large breath? If yes, then maybe you want to check out this video that will teach you on how to do your dantian breathing. So sometimes creating a little bit more space for breathing helps create space for the mind as well. Regular movement is also incredibly supportive. Walking, jogging, gentle exercises, spending time outdoors whenever the air quality is appropriate, allowing the body to experience fresh air, natural light, and changing seasons again. Protect your sleep. Stay adequately hydrated and allow yourself genuine moments of recovery. Not every moment has to be productive. Not every pause has to be earned. The lung system also reminds us that our emotions need movement. Not every feeling has to be resolved immediately. Sometimes it simply needs to be acknowledged, expressed, allowed to pass through us. Before we finish, I would love to leave you with 2 acupressure points that are traditionally used to support the lung system. The first one is Wei Qi. You can find it just above the wrist on the thumb side of the forearm. In traditional Chinese medicine, this acupressure point is commonly used to regulate lung qi, support the throat, and help the body's exterior. The second one is Zongfu. It is located on the upper outer chest, just beneath the collarbone. This point is traditionally used to help with supporting the circulation of lung qi and to help the chest feel more open. And remember, the chest area is sensitive, so do not press too deeply. You can massage these acupressure points gently in circular motion, and remember, consistency matters more than intensity. So, my darling, maybe you have been listening to this video and thinking, I haven't taken a comfortable, long breath in a while. Many of us have become so accustomed to rushing, holding tension, and only breathing enough to get through the day. And we have forgotten what relaxed breathing actually feels like. So remember, the lungs remind us that every breath is an exchange, receiving and releasing, protecting and connecting. When we first began this series, it may have seemed as though we are learning 5 separate organs: the kidneys, the liver, the spleen, the heart, and now the lungs. But as you know, in TCM, nothing is ever separated or works alone in isolation. Health is really about fixing an isolated part. It is about restoring the harmony to the whole. And now I think we've finally reached the most exciting part of our journey together, because you have met all the Wu Zang, the 5 organ systems. You know their personalities. You understand their roles. You have begun recognizing some patterns. And now we will be able to see how they communicate with one another. Because this is where traditional Chinese medicine truly becomes beautiful. Not when we study each organ individually, but when we start understanding what they're saying to each other. For example, why does stress affect digestion? Why does poor sleep eventually influences infertility? Why can grief weaken the body's defenses? And that is exactly what we'll be exploring next. So my darlings, if you have been following this Wu Zang series since the first episode, thank you so much. If this is your first video, I'd encourage you to go back and watch the entire 5 Zang playlist from the beginning. Each episode builds upon the last, and together they create one complete picture of how traditional Chinese medicine understands the human body. My hope was not to just simply teach traditional Chinese medicine, it's to help you understand your body better with a little more curiosity and a little more compassion. I wish you all good health, and good health is the ultimate fortune and the only investment with endless return. And when do we start investing? Right now.